Hi there, I'm Alison Dvorak and I'm a registered dietitian with Senior Resources Agency on Aging in Eastern Connecticut. Welcome to What's on the Menu, our monthly segment where we talk about some kind of topic in nutrition, and I'm also available to take caller questions about any topic. So hopefully if you're not joining us today, you can join us another time and contact me with whatever your nutrition questions are. I'm here to be a good resource to our older adults and people who love them throughout Eastern Connecticut. So today I'm going to be talking about diabetes, kind of going through my monthly topic newsletters. And this month I tagged it, people with diabetes eat real food. Because I think when we think about diabetes, or a lot of people that I talk to when they're maybe new to having diabetes, they think, what am I going to eat? How am I ever going to survive like this? You know, all the good stuff is, I can't have it anymore, which is, you know, you do need to cut back on the sweets and treats a little bit, but overall, people with diabetes do eat real food, and we do continue to eat all the same things that everybody else eats or should eat. So today we're going to talk a little bit about those strategies and how to get real food into your meal plan with diabetes. One thing I wanted to kind of highlight is the fact that 34.2 million Americans have diabetes, and an additional 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. So you're not alone if you're looking at diabetes or if you think that you're at risk for diabetes. So eating healthy and eating a regular schedule of meals, which is what we're going to talk about today, is really good for everybody, whether they have diabetes, whether they're almost going to have diabetes, or whether maybe they'll never have diabetes. It's a healthy way to eat for everybody, so that's what's good about it. I also wanted to point out that diabetes counseling is covered by, for those that are on Medicare. It's called medical nutrition therapy, or in here it's called nutrition therapy services. So for people who have a diagnosis of diabetes and are on Medicare, you can talk with your physician about having an order for counseling with a dietitian one-on-one, where you can really just discuss your own very specific issues, exactly what medications you're on and all of that. So that's available to you through Medicare. So the biggest thing, like I said before, for everybody is to stick to a meal schedule. Now, a lot of people who are adults that are getting diabetes, sometimes they may have tended to be a little overweight throughout their lifetime. So another step here is to try and get that weight back into a more normal range. So by eating a regular schedule of meals that has a healthy balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and not a excessive amount of calories. That's a great way to lose weight gradually and keep it off. And it's also a great way of eating for maintaining blood sugar and the diabetes. We also need to focus on moving a little bit more. So getting in some exercise, going for a walk, finding some activity that you like to do. And even if you don't feel comfortable getting out and about doing a walk or exercising or going to the gym or any of that, just moving more within your house. Try to hold on to the handrail and take the steps up, even if it's one step up and down. It's a little more motion than you're doing currently. That's great. If it's sitting in your chair and kind of doing an arm pedal or a leg pedal, that's a little more motion than you're doing now, and that helps. And that helps to keep your blood sugar down, and it helps to get your weight down. So those are two helpful things about first steps of just trying to get the diabetes under control before you worry about all the numbers and all of the milligrams of this and all the medicines and everything else. Just try and focus on moving more and eating a healthy balance of foods over the course of time. So I also wanted to think about what do we mean when we're talking about what's in the carbs in food. So a lot of times people say, oh, I'm going to be on a no carb diet or a low carb diet because I've got diabetes. Well, let's look at what are carbs, what foods have carbs in them. So let's start off with just a plain old teaspoon of sugar. I have my food models here that are on paper. So the plain old teaspoon of sugar has 4 grams of carbohydrates in it, and it is pure sugar. That's what it is. But that's 4 grams. So let's compare that to something else that we might typically eat that we think would be good. Let's look at cookies, okay? So we know cookies have a lot of sugar in them as well. Well, cookies have 19 grams of carbohydrates in them. So a little bit of that flour is flour, and most of it is the sugar that's added to those cookies. So that's a lot more than a whole teaspoon of sugar. I don't know that I would eat a whole teaspoon of sugar, but just off the spoon. But you can see that the cookies actually have more than even the teaspoon of sugar. So a lot of times the amounts kind of creep up in the foods that we eat, and that's why it's really important to try and stick with the plain version of foods and then do a little sweetening on your own when you can see it and you know what's going in there. So as an example of that, I want to show you the yogurt, which is a very interesting thing. When I think about you know, the food world, yogurt was touted as such a healthy item for such a long time, but we've progressively put a lot of sugar in the flavored versions. So let's look at the difference here between plain low-fat yogurt, which has 12 grams of sugar in it because there is some naturally occurring, you know, dairy-based sugars. So if I ate this plain yogurt, or if I took this plain yogurt and I added a whole teaspoon of sugar and stirred it in, or a whole teaspoon of my favorite jelly or jam, or even better yet, some fresh fruit that also tastes sweet, or frozen fruit that gives off a little juice, then I'm only still dealing with maybe 12, maybe 16 grams of sugar in this one. Whereas the flavored one, where I can't take any of this out once it's in there, it's already flavored with the strawberry, that has 35 grams of sugar and a total of 42 grams of carbohydrates. So that's a lot of sugar, and it's a lot of carbohydrates in one item that I'm thinking is kind of healthy, but it's really not. So if you're going to have yogurt, it's a great item for a lot of different reasons, but go for the plain, and then do add your own fruit, like fresh blueberries or frozen strawberries, anything like that, where you're just getting the fruit item and it's providing a natural sugar that would also maybe a little bit more carbs, but not as many carbs as what's in the pre-flavored. And you could even still do like a drizzle of honey or something if you wanted to, but you don't really need to because you're getting all that flavor without the sugar in there when you can't take it out. So that's an idea of looking at how much sugar is in some of our different foods. And we can also make informed choices in things like canned fruit. So this is a fruit cocktail, and we can see the difference in here is when it's packed in juice, it has 19 grams of sugar. And when it's packed in heavy syrup, it has, well, they don't list it the right way there, so 15, it has 24 grams of carbs, which is all sugar. So it has more sugar when it's in heavy syrup, even though it does still have some from the fruit when it's in juice. And we compare that still to our regular fruits. If you had the whole fresh fruit, here's the strawberries, which have a lot of fiber in them with all those seeds. They have 5 grams of total carbohydrate, 2 of them are fiber, and 4 of them are sugar, naturally occurring sugars. So when we look at things that have more fiber in them, like fruits, that helps to slow the digestion of the carbohydrates, and also then it means it goes into our bloodstream at a slower rate. So I won't talk too much more about fruits and stuff. I did want to point out that things like meats, and these are, you know, a lot of talk about keto diets and everything else. Meats do not have carbohydrates in them. So this is a hamburger, okay? It has 217 calories, but it doesn't have any carbs. It's mostly protein and fat. So it's providing calories, which will eventually turn to sugar in our bloodstream, because that's what our body does, is digest everything and kind of create it into energy and things that go into our bloodstream. But it'll happen over a slow period of time because that takes a while for us to digest it and for it to go into our bloodstream and become sugar. So yes, proteins are a nice way to slow down the way that sugars go into our bloodstream, but it's only a part of the equation because our brains need that quicker acting carbohydrate as well to keep them up and functioning. So that's why it's very important to have a nice diverse intake. Now let's look at something like a mixed dish here, like a chicken stir fry. Okay, we've got a lot of things going on in there with chicken and mushrooms and nuts and all kinds of things. So the total carbohydrates here are 48 grams, which is like a whole meal, but you know, it's a lot of different things in there. That's a lot of carbohydrates. One thing we want to watch out here for is the sodium content, because a lot of times in something like a chicken stir fry, they're adding soy sauce. Now this comes up a lot where people think, oh, that's so high in salt, it's going to make my blood sugar go up. Salt doesn't necessarily make your blood sugar go up, but we will encourage people to not consume a lot of salt or sodium when they have diabetes, because having diabetes puts you at higher risk of other cardiac conditions like high blood pressure or kidney disease, and salt can really play a number on those. So while it doesn't make your blood sugar go up, it will make some other things go up that aren't good either. So eating that whole well-balanced meal that's low in carbohydrates or moderate in carbohydrates and balanced throughout the day is very important. And that balancing the meals, do have breakfast, do have lunch, do have dinner. We really want to caution anybody on diabetes from following any drastic diets where there's fasting involved or very calorie deficit meal planning, because it can really throw off your system too quickly. Another thing I wanted to think about is beverages. Now, here's an example of iced tea, and here the sugar sweetened iced tea has 33 grams carbohydrate, and the unsweetened has 2. So that's a lot of sugar that got added in there, and you don't want all that sugar in your life, so avoid that. Same thing with soda, artificial. So we've talked about having a variety of foods. We've talked about thinking about the drinks that you're consuming. Keep it simple. That's the best answer. Just keep it simple, and slow and steady wins the race. Another tag phrase I like to think about is being the one to bring it. So if you go to a party, a lot of times I hear this from people saying, well, I'm going to go to this holiday gathering at my daughter-in-law's and I'm not going to be able to eat anything there. Well, you know what? You can, because obviously there's nothing wrong with telling somebody, I'm concerned about what I'm going to eat. I want to eat what's simple and healthy for me, and they want you to do that too. So I'm sure they're going to help to make sure that you're staying healthy. But there's nothing wrong with being the one to bring it. Like if you're going to an event and there's all these appetizers, you can bring the veggie tray. You could bring, mini peanut butter sandwiches or something like that. So those are things that are going to be enjoyable to a lot of people. And if we look at those numbers, there's somebody else there that's going to have diabetes, so you're going to want to help them out as well. And that's a great way to be a part of the party and be a part of it being a healthy party, and sharing your love of yourself and your health, and sharing that with your love and of others and your love for their health as well. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please give me a call or an email, advorak@seniorresourcesec.org, or 860-877-3561, and I'm extension 115. And I hope you'll join us for another edition of What's on the Menu. Next month, we're going to focus on weight management. So we'll go more in depth about watching our weight for anybody with or without diabetes, so that we can live a long, healthy, happy life. Take care.